My name is Grace Turner, and I am 27 years old, living in Portland, Oregon, where it rains more often than not, and the coffee shops nearly outnumber the people. Most days, I would ride my old green bike to work at a little bookstore on Hawthorne, humming along to whatever song was stuck in my head, enjoying the slow rhythm of my days. My life was ordinary by most accounts, filled with the noise of pages turning and the friendly greetings of regular customers, until I met Evan in a dim, crowded bar during a friend's birthday party. At first, Evan was charming in a way I had never experienced, attentive, witty, able to turn any dull moment electric with a perfectly timed joke. He was older than me by a couple years and seemed to have it all together, studying for a degree while working part-time. When he wrapped me up in his stories and laughter, I felt pulled into a life that was just beyond reach, shinier, and more exciting. I ignored the warnings my gut tried to send. Maybe it was the way he sometimes made fun of the way I dressed, or the offhand comments about my intelligence, but I chalked it up to his edgy sense of humor. Portland was full of quirky people, after all, and I never wanted to seem too sensitive. It was only months later that I realized how insidious it all was. The playful teasing became cruel, biting remarks. He started telling me I was not good enough, that I should know how to make love better, that his ex-girlfriends were always prettier, smarter, funnier, everything I was not. He found new ways every day to belittle me. He'd tell me I looked like a drug addict, that I was too dumb for him, that I was lucky to have anyone at all. I kept telling myself he was just in a rough patch, just needed patience. But it got worse. He forced me to take a pill at a party one night. His friends laughing in the background as he pressured me, saying I was boring and no fun at all if I did not do it. I held the tablet in my palm for an hour and eventually dropped it in the toilet while he was not looking. The emotional swings turned physical, only once, but enough to leave a bruise on my wrist and a deeper ache inside me. I found messages on his phone with half a dozen of his ex-girlfriends. I confronted him, and he told me if I did not like it, I could leave. He gave me 2 weeks to get out of his apartment, but I only lasted 5 days, shoving everything I owned in trash bags and rolling them to a friend's car in the pouring rain. My safe haven became a bed in a women's shelter, surrounded by strangers who looked just as hollowed out as I felt. That should have been the end of it. For months afterward, I tried to build myself back up. I went to therapy, tried meditation and long walks across the steel bridge, anything to feel like myself again. But I kept hearing his voice in my head, tearing me down, and I could not silence it. I obsessed over little things, his smug grin, the way he was always so sure nothing bad would ever catch up with him. I kept tabs on him, scrolling through his social media where he posted about his amazing student life, and the job he bragged about having landed. Then after 6 months of never seeing him, a friend mentioned something odd. Evan had been bragging about how he was getting state money for studying, but meanwhile he was also holding down a full-time job under the table. A small, angry ember began to crackle in my chest. In Oregon, students get generous stipends from the state only if they are not working elsewhere. It was considered fraud otherwise. I did not want to get involved. I was trying to move on, or so I told myself. But I could not shake the bitterness, the sense of how unfair it all was. Evan had broken so much in me and walked away free as a bird, already finding new prey. My thoughts turned darker at night, replaying every cruel word he had said to me. Eventually, that bitterness started to taste like a sort of resolve. I looked up the rules about student stipends. I gathered screenshots, linked online profiles, read through blogs about whistleblowers. My hands shook the entire time, but I submitted the evidence anonymously to the Oregon Higher Education Board. I nearly threw up afterward, pacing my apartment until my legs hurt. Weeks passed. I started to regret it, to question whether I had become like him, using power to tear someone down. But the echo of his voice, telling me I would never be good enough to do anything that mattered, kept me awake at night. I heard through a mutual friend that the state launched an investigation. They found Evan had hidden thousands in under-the-table wages while taking the scholarship money. The board informed him he would have to pay back nearly $40,000. He tried to contest it, but they had proof. The news spread through our circle. Evan called me dozens of times. I never picked up. Once, I saw him waiting by my old bookstore, glaring at me as I cycled by across the street. In those moments, I felt a wave of guilt crash through me, mixed with a darker, unexpected thrill of justice. For weeks I felt sick about it, wondering if I had gone too far, if I had done it not just to protect myself, but to hurt him the way he hurt me. There were nights I stared at the ceiling and wondered if I would ever feel whole again, or if my act of revenge had simply chained me to a darker version of myself. But something inside shifted. For the first time since leaving Evan's world, I realized I was not trapped anymore. I had taken control, not just of my life, but of the narrative he had written for us. That power no longer belonged to him. I poured myself into work and stopped looking for his face everywhere I went. Eventually, I could go whole days without thinking of him at all. I never celebrated what happened, never posted about it, or told friends in detail. The revenge did not heal me completely, but it built a small foundation for the woman I wanted to become. Someone unafraid to defend herself, someone who knows when to fight back. Months later, a new employee joined the bookstore, jokingly asking if Portland was always this rainy. For the first time in a long time, I smiled for real, letting in the possibility that this city held more for me than just old wounds and caution. As I locked my bike up that night and glanced at the low, endless clouds above, I felt lighter. Somewhere in the city, Evan was learning to live with the consequences of his choices, just as I had done. Maybe justice is not a perfect thing, but it helped me finally break free. Sometimes, I still worry that what I did was wrong, but then I remember that surviving sometimes means drawing a line and refusing to let someone cross it again. So I ride home, windblown and steady, hopeful for what comes next.